The graveyard shift at the gas station, a place usually steeped in the mundane rhythms of late-night truckers and insomniac locals, had taken on a peculiar, unsettling hum. The fluorescent lights, usually a beacon against the encroaching darkness, now seemed to flicker with an unnatural, almost sentient buzz, casting elongated, distorted shadows across the aisles. The refrigerators, typically a source of cool, mechanical drone, now emitted a low, guttural thrum, a sound that resonated deep within my chest, a primal warning I couldn't quite decipher. I was halfway through my shift, restocking the shelves with sugary concoctions and salty snacks, when the chime of the door, usually a simple electronic tone, seemed to echo with an unnatural resonance, a discordant note in the night's symphony. A woman entered, her hand clutched tightly in the small, trembling hand of a young boy. Their eyes, wide and haunted, reflected the harsh glare of the overhead lights, revealing a terror that transcended the ordinary fear of a lost child. The woman's clothes were torn, as if rent by unseen claws, and her face, streaked with tears, bore the pallor of someone who had witnessed a horror beyond human comprehension. The boy, no older than 7, clung to her side like a barnacle to a rotting hull, his gaze darting around the store, as if expecting something to emerge from the shadows. The woman approached the counter, her voice a mere whisper, a fragile reed in the face of an unseen storm. "Can I use your phone?" she asked, her voice trembling, each syllable a testament to her profound fear. I nodded, my own unease growing, and handed her the store phone. As she dialed, her hands shook with an almost violent tremor, a tremor that seemed to emanate from something deeper, something primal. The boy, his eyes wide and unblinking, stared into the empty aisles, as if he could see something I couldn't, something lurking in the periphery of my vision. The woman spoke into the phone, her voice a hushed, frantic plea, her words a jumbled tapestry of terror and desperation. I strained to hear, to glean some understanding of the horror that had driven them to this desolate outpost. But her words were fragmented, a broken code that hinted at a darkness beyond my comprehension. I caught phrases like "he's coming," "the shadows," and "the old place," words that conjured images of ancient, malevolent entities and forgotten, forbidden places. After the call, she asked if they could stay in the store for a while, her voice barely audible, a desperate plea for sanctuary. I could see the terror etched into her face, the raw, primal fear that radiated from her like a palpable aura. "Of course," I said, my voice thick with a dread I couldn't explain. "You can stay as long as you need." I offered them some free drinks and snacks, attempting to provide a semblance of comfort in the face of their overwhelming terror. The woman's face softened slightly, a flicker of gratitude in her haunted eyes. They retreated to a corner, the boy munching on a candy bar, his eyes still wide and watchful, while the woman sipped water, her gaze fixed on the empty aisles, as if she could see the encroaching darkness. The night dragged on, each minute stretching into an eternity, the silence punctuated by the unsettling hum of the refrigerators and the occasional rustle of the wind against the glass windows. The unease in my stomach grew, a cold, gnawing dread that seemed to seep into my bones. I didn't know what they were running from, but the terror in their eyes spoke of a horror that transcended the mundane, a primal fear that resonated with something ancient and malevolent. An hour passed, an eternity in the oppressive silence, when the door chimed again, this time with an aggressive, almost violent resonance. A man stormed in, his face contorted with rage, his eyes burning with a malevolent intensity that made my blood run cold. "There you are," he roared, his voice a guttural growl that echoed through the store, making the fluorescent lights flicker ominously. He moved with a predatory grace, his eyes fixed on the woman and the boy, his intent clear. The woman shrank back, pulling the boy closer, her eyes wide with terror. "Sir, you need to leave," I said, my voice trembling but firm. I stepped between him and the woman, a fragile barrier against his encroaching rage. "Get out of my way," he roared, his voice a primal growl. "They're coming with me." He tried to push past me, his strength far exceeding my own, but I held my ground, my resolve fueled by a primal instinct to protect the innocent. The woman was crying now, clutching her son protectively, her body trembling with fear. "Sir, I'm calling the police," I warned, my heart pounding in my chest, a frantic drumbeat against the silence. I reached for the phone, my hand shaking, and dialed 911. "Help, we need police at the gas station on Ash Street," I shouted into the phone, my voice a desperate plea against the encroaching darkness. The dispatcher assured me that help was on the way, but the minutes stretched into an eternity, each second a testament to the fragility of human existence. The man continued to shout, his rage escalating, his eyes burning with a malevolent intensity. He tried to drag the woman out of the store, his grip like iron, his intent clear. I stood in his way, a fragile shield against his rage, hoping to buy time. The boy was crying now, his face buried in his mother's side, his small body trembling with fear. Finally, the sirens wailed in the distance, a distant promise of salvation. 2 officers burst through the door, their guns drawn, their faces grim. "Step away from them," one officer commanded, his voice sharp and authoritative. The man hesitated, his rage momentarily checked by the presence of authority. He raised his hands, his face still contorted with anger, his eyes burning with a malevolent intensity. The officers moved quickly, handcuffing him and escorting him out to the squad car. The woman collapsed onto a chair, sobbing with relief, her body shaking with the aftershocks of terror. The boy clung to her, his small body trembling, his eyes still wide with fear, but a flicker of relief beginning to dawn in their depths. One of the officers stayed behind to talk to the woman. She explained that the man was her husband, a possessive, abusive force, a dark entity that had sought to consume her and her child. She had finally managed to escape, fleeing into the night, seeking refuge in the desolate gas station. The officer assured her that she was safe now, that they would help her find a place to stay, a sanctuary from the darkness that had pursued her. A wave of relief washed over me, a tidal wave that threatened to overwhelm me. The situation had been terrifying, a glimpse into the abyss, but I was glad I could help, that I could provide a moment of sanctuary in the face of overwhelming darkness. The woman thanked me repeatedly, her voice thick with emotion, her eyes filled with tears of gratitude. I told her it was no problem, that I was just glad she and her son were safe. The police took the man away, his rage contained, but not extinguished. The officer stayed with the woman until a social worker arrived, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. They arranged for her and her son to stay at a safe house for the night, a temporary sanctuary from the malevolent force that had pursued them. As they left, the woman turned to me one last time, her voice filled with emotion. "Thank you," she said, her eyes filled with a gratitude that transcended words. I nodded, watching as they walked out into the night, their figures swallowed by the darkness, but their safety assured, at least for the moment. The store was quiet again, the only sound the hum of the refrigerators and the buzz of the lights, but the night felt different now, imbued with a sense of dread and unease. I had faced something terrifying, a glimpse into the abyss, and helped someone in need, a fragile act of defiance against the encroaching darkness. As the hours passed and the morning light began to filter through the windows, I couldn't stop thinking about the woman and her son, their faces etched with terror, their voices trembling with fear. I hoped they would find peace and safety in their new life, that they would escape the clutches of the malevolent force that had pursued them. And I hoped that, in some small way, I had made a difference, that I had provided a flicker of light in the face of overwhelming darkness. The memory of that night stayed with me, a reminder of the strength it takes to stand up to fear, and the power of kindness in the face of darkness. A darkness that seemed to emanate from something ancient and malevolent, something that lurked just beyond the periphery of human understanding.